On March 28, 1979, millions of Americans woke up to the headlines that would shake the nation's confidence in nuclear power. Deep inside a reactor near Harrisburg, PA, a chain of small failures has begun to spiral out of control. Operators struggled to understand what was happening, radiation alarms were sounding, and for several tense days, experts feared that the United States might be facing its first major nuclear catastrophe. This is the story of 3 Mile Island. In the 70s, nuclear energy was often described as the future. Across the United States, new reactors were being built to provide reliable electricity without burning fossil fuels. Engineers promised abundant power, modern technology, and a safer energy for the future. By the end of the decade, dozens of nuclear plants were operating nationwide, including the 3 Mile Island nuclear generating station. Located on the island in Susquehanna River near Harrisburg, PA, the facility consisted of 2 pressurized water reactors. Unit 1 had entered service in 1974, while Unit 2, the reactor involved in the accident, had only recently begun commercial operation in late 1978. To the public, it represented the cutting edge of American engineering. But during the early morning, on March 28th, everything began to change. At approximately 4 o'clock in the morning, a malfunction occurred in the plant's secondary cooling system. Pumps responsible for removing heat from the reactor unexpectedly shut down. As temperatures and pressure inside the reactor increased, an emergency relief valve automatically opened to reduce the pressure. The valve did exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is, it failed to close. Cooling water began escaping from the reactor system, but inside the control room, operators received misleading information. Instrument panels indicated that the valve had been commanded to close, not that it was actually closed. Believing the reactor contained sufficient water, operators made a decision based on incomplete information. Meanwhile, coolant continued to leak away. As the water level inside the reactor dropped, portions of the nuclear fuel became exposed. Temperatures soared. Metal fuel cladding reacted with the steam, producing hydrogen gas inside the reactor vessel. Unknown to those working in the control room, the reactor core was beginning to melt. Minute by minute, the situation became more dangerous. Engineers struggled to interpret confusing readings, while emergency procedures failed to fully match the conditions unfolding before them. What began as a relatively manageable equipment malfunction has evolved into a severe accident driven by human error, poor instrumentation, and unexpected system interactions. News of the incident quickly spread beyond the plant. Radiation releases were detected, although most were relatively small. Conflicting reports fueled public anxiety. Rumors circulated about a possible explosion. Schools closed. Thousands of residents voluntarily evacuated the surrounding area. On the national television, Americans watched officials debate the risks while experts worked around the clock to stabilize the reactor. The greatest concern centered on the growing hydrogen bubble inside of the reactor vessel. Some feared it could ignite, potentially worsening the accident dramatically. For several tense days, uncertainty dominated every decision. Eventually, engineers gained control of the situation. The reactor was successfully cooled and the hydrogen threat subsided. Investigations later revealed that approximately half of the reactor core had melted, making 3 Mile Island the most serious accident in the history of commercial nuclear power plant in the United States. Remarkably, studies conducted in the decades that followed found no evidence of widespread health effects among the surrounding population attributable to radiation that released during that accident. Yet, the impact of 3 Mile Island extended far beyond the reactor itself. Public trust in nuclear energy collapsed. New regulations transformed operator training, emergency preparedness, and control room design. Nuclear expansion across the US slowed dramatically, and the accident became a defining moment in the history of American energetic policies. Today, 3 Mile Island remains a powerful reminder that disasters do not always begin with explosions or visible destructions. Sometimes, they begin with a single valve, a misunderstood warning light, and a handful of decisions made in the uncertainty of the early morning hours. Nearly half a century later, the lessons learned from 3 Mile Island continue to influence every nuclear reactor operating in the United States and outside of it.